Hi, everybody. I'm Reshmi, the publications officer from the BPSA, and I am so honored to be carrying out this interview in honor of Black History Month with four very special people. These guys are my fellow executive members. So do you guys want to go around and introduce yourselves and your role?
Yeah, so my name is Emeka, second year pharmacy, studying at the University of East Anglia, and I'm Eastern Area Coordinator for this mandate.
My name's Deborah. I am a trainee pharmacist. I used to go to the University of Sussex, and I'm the policy officer for this mandate.
My name is Craig. I'm second year student at UEA, and I'm the car information technology officer for this mandate.
My name is Noni. I'm a third year student at Keele University, and I'm the Secretary General for this mandate.
So guys, we're just gonna run through the questions that we've prepared and we've looked at beforehand. So the first one, we'll start off with a nice easy one. What does Black History Month mean to you?
Sorry, I'm not even on mute. Yeah, Black History Month is an opportunity to celebrate and promote the achievements of the Black community while not forgetting to address and confront the racism that's still prominent in our society today. Personally, it enables me to enlighten people around me that may not be as educated to the indifferences that loads of people went through and still do currently. It's an opportunity for me to further educate myself as well by looking back in history on the events that took place to create the representation for what Black History Month means. Professionally, Black History Month is another reminder of how far we still have to go as Black individuals to make our voices heard and to affect change that will enable people coming after us to benefit from the path we create.
Debbie?
Black History Month for me is very important. I think it's a time for reflection, learning and for celebration. Growing up as a first generation immigrant wasn't always easy, and especially in this country, it's easy to feel out of place and like you don't belong. But this is a month that is all about learning about our history. As Emeka said, we have a rich history, but we also have a painful one, and it's a time where we can reflect, look back, make sure that history doesn't repeat itself. It's a time to celebrate the rich culture and heritage that we're from, and a time in which we can be unapologetic in who we are, unapologetic in our Blackness, and strive to continue to do that.
For me, Black History Month is an occasion to celebrate and advocate for the Black community. And it's really important that throughout this period, we educate the public on the common misconception and aware them with important notions that everybody should be very wary of. It also celebrates and promotes the Black heritage that is also often not included in the Book of Histories. And also an occasion for me to learn more about myself as a Black person in this society and learn more about what was the history, and as now as a Black person, society has changed and has done for me.
I think a key word that comes to mind when I think of Black History Month is recognition. It's a month to recognize Black talent, Black history, what we've contributed to society as Black individuals through our culture and through just amazing scientific discoveries. And so I'd say professionally, Black History Month is a time to reflect on the impact that Black people and Black cultures have had on the pharmacy profession. It's a time to celebrate Black cultures. We've all talked about rich cultural heritage and history. It's time to celebrate those different cultures and learn from people, learn about people's different cultures. And yeah, I'd say it's a time to reflect, recognize, and celebrate.
That's so wonderful to hear, all these different opinions and what it means to you. So, obviously, being pharmacy students, what was your initial thought to wanting to pursue pharmacy as like a career and a degree in university? Like, what was your, did you have any inspirations or any reasons? What was it that drew you to the profession initially?
So From a young age, pharmacy has not been a career path that I knew you just do because you have to do it, but it has to be something that you want to do. So that want and challenging demeanor about pharmacy was a driving factor in me setting up my educational choices to be able to enter the pharmacy world. My biggest motivational tool in wanting to pursue a pathway in pharmacy was my drive to want to make change. That was a key deciding factor in my upgrowing interest within pharmacy from a young age. I knew I had to embark on a career in the future that gave me the tools and platform to make effective change. Then as I went through my educational years, I developed an obvious liking to science. And putting 2 and 2 together, pharmacy was a career path that I knew felt right. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but the idea of setting a life for myself that allows me to make change within the community on a daily basis was enough of a vision for me to commit my education to. When I was much younger, the professions that were thrown around my attention was like medicine, lawyer, engineer, etc. But pharmacy was very rarely mentioned as a career path. But as I became more cohesive with my future goals and plans for my life, pharmacy had the feeling of a profession that if I put the work in, the output would be much greater. I can wholeheartedly say that it's a decision that I've not looked back on ever since.
That's wonderful.
For me, chemistry was always my best subject at school, but I didn't want to be in the lab all day. I knew that I wanted to be in a patient-facing role. I knew that I wanted to be there, be present, talk to people, get their experiences, you know, help them and see the difference that we're making in people's lives right there. But as Emeka already said, coming from an African family, pharmacy was not one of those main things that we were pushed towards. So my school and family heavily encouraged me to take medicine. And the summer of applying, I was doing all the tests and researching more, but the more and more I found out about it, and the more I learned about medicine and through the application process, the more I felt that it wasn't right for me and that it actually wasn't what I wanted to be doing, even though it matched up my want for being in patient-facing role and still having my sciences. So I was still looking around for lots of courses, and I was looking more at medicinal chemistry and all these other kind of like research-facing roles until I went for my open days and learned more about pharmacy, and through there started to link up with other pharmacists and get more experience in pharmacies. But I think that the thing that solidified it for me was a talk given by a Professor Apampa, Buge Apampa. She was our former head of school at Sussex, and I had never seen a Black African woman in such a position of leadership in academics or within this profession, a profession that I was thinking of going into. So I think seeing that and hearing her talk, hearing her experiences, it really inspired me. And I could finally envision myself in a career that fitted my personality, my skill set, but also the things that I wanted to achieve. And her being in front of me actually was one of the biggest driving factors for me finally deciding, yes, I want to be a pharmacist.
So lovely to hear. Craig, what about you?
Well, my true inspiration was my mother. My mother graduated as a nurse in a local hospital university. And as a kid, she used to bring me often to campuses around hospital, and I was constantly in contact with specialists. And as a kid, might sound being weird, but as a kid, I was like really impressed on observing how they were able to basically interact with patients and showing humanity. They were able to comfort them, especially when they were very distressed. And they impressed me really much and really stuck in me throughout my time. And what really contributed on enhancing this idea was my self-love of chemistry and sciences in general as a subject. Basically, I was always interested and curious about the effect of drugs on, for example, mimicking the activity of hormones in order to change the physiological functions of your body. And well, it is sort of like an equation. It came to me to realize that pharmacists were the right formula for me to explore more into similar topics and enhance my knowledge and be able to discover more in depth about what is the role of a pharmacist as a professionalist, and how he's able to use his knowledge to execute his clinical plan to help the community. So I believe that the choice I've made is definitely going to fulfill my dreams.
Thank you, Craig. What about you, Noni?
Yeah, so quite similar to everyone else, I kind of knew from a bit of a young age that I wanted to be in healthcare, from observing my family members' own health issues and some of my family members who do work in healthcare, like nurses or doctors. I found that I was most passionate about health. I was most passionate about helping people in that way, promoting good health amongst populations. I think what pushed me to pharmacy was how interactive they are in their community and how instrumental, I guess you could say, they are to community health. And that was what interested me most, as I had like a passion for public health, and it also matched my skill sets, which is, I love talking to people and really facing people and interacting in that way. Always loved sciences, always loved learning about the human body, human brain, psychology, health sciences, all of that. So yeah, it just pushed me towards pharmacy. And so during the pandemic, actually, I kind of made my decision. I was like, yeah, I'm going to go and study pharmacy. And that's how I ended up in this career. And I'm really glad that I chose pharmacy out of all the options.
So lovely to hear. Okay, so yeah, so moving on to my next question. So following on from that, now that you have already made the decision to pursue pharmacy, what then motivated you to run to be an executive member for the BPSA? And what led to that decision? Because 3 out of the 4 of you are first-time execs. So what was it that drew you to the role? And also, like Noni as well, even though you're like the most senior executive member here, what was it initially as doing it like your first ever mandate that pushed you and like propelled you to like run for this leadership role and to be part of this team?
This is an interesting question. I say this because like a little over 5 months ago, I had no idea about the BPSA and what it provides. Then the journey of being given a free annual conference ticket and then having to pay for the full ticket yourself, all added to the experience at the end of the day. It set up my mindset in knowing that I had to make the most out of the conference week long, especially now that I had paid for it as well. As the weekend commenced, I started to feel an added interest within myself to want to know more about the different sectors within the pharmacy industry. Adding together the motivational impact from the keynote speakers and being filled in a room full of 70+ people that had the same driving mindset as myself was enough for me to at least consider taking the next step when I became aware that elections was on the horizon. Coming back to my reason in wanting to enter pharmacy, which was the ability to make change, I knew that reaching an executive position as a Black individual as well would further push me on the pathway to making change within the pharmacy industry. I wanted to fully remove the words like can't and won't from my vocabulary. And I knew that pushing aside my obvious apprehension at the time, I put myself forward to be given the opportunity to become an executive member of the BPSA would go a long way in making myself fully believe as a pharmacy student. As soon as I found the role of Eastern Area Coordinator, I knew straight away that role just screamed change. And it made my mind thereafter that it was a role that I was going to strive to win.
So lovely to hear. Debbie?
So I first joined the BPSA in my first year, and I had and still have made so many amazing friends and memories through the organization. There's been so many opportunities that have come through the BPSA that I'm very grateful for. I actually did run in my first year. I kind of had a similar experience to Emeka. I just wanted to be a part of that change. I ran for the position. I didn't get into the exec actually, but I still remained, it was a really good learning experience for me. But I think that it left me feeling like I had some unfinished business, but I just wasn't quite ready to take that step of joining the exec. However, throughout my time at uni, I've managed to grow more, and I feel like I've learned a lot more, and I've gained experiences that I can take and bring into this role. And I think I'm the best version of me that I could be to excel in this role. I chose to run for this position because, like I said, I want to be a part of the change and I want to be a part of that change. So I've never really, I don't know, I just can't see myself not being in this position. I thought it would be an amazing opportunity to gain further skills and experiences, and it would just be amazing to do it whilst working with a team of equally driven and hardworking individuals who are also inspiring in all their own ways. And I just wanted to be at the forefront and stay, because I've graduated now, so stay at the forefront of making a difference in people's lives, changing and working towards shaping the future of pharmacy, the future of healthcare.
Absolutely. Craig, how about you?
Well, my experience so similar for Mecca's. I remember I was not quite aware of BPSA before the conference. I remember applying for this application for a free ticket for the event, and be one of the few lucky people being able to attend it without paying paying the price. And it all started when me and my friends were attending the first events, like business conferences. And I was really captured about the passion of many people, especially the previous executive, on standing up for the current event occurring in the world of pharmacy. And it was really crazy to see all the women come in inside the room from every single delegate. And I remember throughout the days, I was thinking about all these sort of elements, and especially from the various keynote speakers that came around and gave really strong speeches that still this day I remember. And all these elements had me for made me think, well, maybe I should probably give it a shot. As a person, I never stood out. I never had the possibility or the opportunity to apply for something or maybe do something that was out from a comfort zone. So this occasion just came to me, and I was thinking myself, well, maybe I should give it a shot. In all honesty, during the election day, I was really confident on my abilities, and I remember the first I pulled out from the election row. But after a while, seeing all my friends and all the few people that met within a few weeks, getting in those positions, kind of giving some sort of like push, and I thought myself, I want to be part of that team. I was impressed on just people just came along, presenting yourself, the personality, and people just loved them for that, and they left in those positions. Well, it made me think, well, I think, you know what, let's change things around. And I remember I just went for it without even a speech ready, and somehow here I am. So yeah, that's my story.
That's wonderful, Craig. And now we come to Noni, who has the most experience out of all of us here.
You say that, but I don't feel like I have that much more experience. So yeah, my journey with the BPSA started in first year when I was a BPSA liaison, and I was also a local exchange officer for the IPSF SEP program through BPSA. And so I actually applied for those positions because it was, COVID years, pandemic years. There was nothing else to do other than find something to do. And so I was very bored, and I was like, you know what? I don't know much about the BPSA, but it seems like a good organization to be a part of. So let me just apply for the role of liaison. And it was actually quite inspiring working as a liaison, because you get a glimpse into what the executive do, because you help out your area coordinator with sending promotional material on what the BPSA are doing. You help out with area conferences, stuff like that. And so getting that glimpse, I was like, wow, this is a really cool role. I'd love to do it. But when I found out you had to be elected, all my stress and anxiety came up. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can stand in front of elections and have people elect me. So I went to the online 79th AC, and throughout the whole week, I was like, yeah, I don't know if I can do this whole executive thing. It seems very I don't know, I just felt like an outsider, especially as a first year. I didn't know anyone who was attending the conference. But over time, I was like, I kind of grew more and more confident, having spoken to more people who were on the exec, and just speaking to people who were kind of similar to me. There were some people who were Black who were in attendance or who were on the exec who spoke to me and were like, you can do this. Don't keep doubting yourself just because you don't see yourself there. We're here. If we can be here, you can be here too. And so, yeah, all of their motivation is what drove me to apply to be in elections for Pennine Area Coordinator. It wasn't a contested role, so it was pretty okay. But I did get elected, and that kind of gave me a confidence boost. Like, I can actually be in a leadership role. And so after being Pennine area coordinator for that mandate, it came to annual conference, and it was a tough mandate, I'll be honest, the mandate before. And I think it always is a tough mandate. You're always working hard whilst you're also working alongside your studies. So I did want to continue with the BPSA, but I wasn't too sure if I was going to go for the role I'm in now, Secretary General, because it is a tough role. And so during annual conference was when I really got my motivation to continue, because of how passionate all of the attendees were. You know, especially during the COVID years, you're doing everything online and you don't get to see the people who are attending your events. You don't get to really speak to them that much. But during annual conference, we became like a small community. It was so wonderful. Everyone was so supportive and so engaged and so excited to be there. And just seeing like, wow, we actually are having an impact through our conference business, to our social events, and just seeing that we're having an impact, people are actually enjoying themselves, and we are doing something as pharmacy students. Why would I not want to continue being a part of this? And so I ran for elections again as Sec Gen, and everyone was really supportive then as well. And yeah, I'm really happy that I did stay on executive, and I am looking forward to the rest of this mandate.
Wow, I had no idea that you didn't think you were going to run for Sec Gen until annual conference. Wow, okay, that's a little tidbit, a little story information that I never knew till now. Okay, so next question. So also, you know, leading on from this is the next one. So I may be mistaken. I think Noni can probably help me with this, but is this the most number of Black execs we've had on a team? So yeah, I was thinking it would be. So how does it feel to like actually have this many fellow Black members as part of the team? And do you think that this should have been done a long time ago, or do you think now is like the perfect time? What are like your thoughts on this, on like also being part of like one of the most diverse teams in like the history of the association, because it is quite a significant milestone?
I can't lie, I think it's lit. Like, I feel like it's an opportunity that I'm so glad I took, because I know when I was debating on running, the only thing that was going to stop me was the fear of me failing. Like, in my head, I was like, oh, imagine I walk out and like, it's not my name on the board, and like, you know, I'm disappointed. But then at the end of the day, I was like, the only disappointment is me not trying and putting myself in a position to at least have the chance to have success. So when I went over that boundary and I did it, and obviously I won, it was like the best feeling. And then obviously to see the team form, and then seeing like a lot of like Black individuals involved as well, that were my friends at the same time, it was just like, you know what, like it was a decision I was very like privileged to be in, because I know there's people that would also want to be in that position, but don't kind of have the resources and like the opportunity to like come to events like that and be on an exec such as the BPSA. So I do feel like resources and like perception has definitely had an impact on like the association's history on like being inclusive and diverse. So I feel like the ability to like use and find like effective resources in the future will give us a strong platform to further spread the awareness of associations like the BPSA, so more minorities can come to the association and be given a chance to be on a platform such as being an exec member at the end of the day. So I feel like through the effective use of resources and increasing the ability of diverse members joining the association, I feel like it will push the engagement between BPSA on all angles, not just one direction.
Thank you, Emeka. Debbie?
For me, having 4 Black members on the exec is amazing to see. I've been part of the BPSA this is my 5th year now, and I think seeing how the membership of the executive team has changed and evolved is amazing, and being a part of that is not just an amazing opportunity, but it's a really inspiring one. Inspiration can come from so many people, but just in this room alone, like being able to have 3 other Black colleagues that without even speaking, share so many experiences with me that other people wouldn't necessarily understand, makes such a difference. Like Emeka said, seeing how the team was getting elected and how representative it is was just an amazing thing, and being a part of it is an honor. The association was established years ago, and very different times to what they are now. And I think that with time, it's changing to shape and reflect what the current profession and student body looks like. Pharmacy as a profession is one of the most racially diverse professions out there. I don't want to misquote statistics, but I think it's something like, it was, shouldn't I? Round about 47 or something like that % of pharmacy professionals answered a GPHC survey saying that they identified from an ethnic minority group. But when you look at leadership across different sectors, that isn't reflective of that. So I think as a student body, we are literally the future of pharmacy. So if we, from this point, can be this representative, then the other major key stakeholders in this sector, in the profession, can also look and see, well, the student, the quote unquote, the kids are doing it. Why can't we do it? And change takes time, especially within this organization that's been established for so long, and it can be difficult to realize. So I think that might be another reason why it's taken a while. And change is also very difficult. And one thing that I didn't know before joining the exec is the demand and the pressures that are on the team, and they're far greater than I had known. So to create changes to foster a representative environment takes a lot of unlearning and relearning, and it takes time for that to be meaningful and long lasting. And we need to secure that longevity so that it's not just tokenistic. You know, we don't want to just be that tokenistic mandate that had someone represented from all different backgrounds. So I think the fact that it's taken us time to get to this point is understandable, but I think it was also necessary to make sure we stay here and just continue to grow from this point.
Yes, absolutely. Love that answer. And I agree with you 100%. Craig, what are your thoughts and opinions on this?
Well, being part of this Monday, definitely, as a completion in my perspective, not even only the role of pharmacy, but also for healthcare. Well, definitely, right now I feel way more representative as a student, as a Black student, because just looking how there are many people around my same community taking roles, even major roles, and we're making changes, advocating for Black people, and giving opportunities for them to even explore more on the roles, or having more opportunities to develop their skills and maybe have successful futures. Makes me think that we are definitely in the right direction. Yes, taking time to reach this level. Yes, and the reason for them may vary. Definitely, the opinion has changed throughout time. As Debbie mentioned, back when the association was formed, there were completely different plans, and all this sort of provision that protect all minorities and the people that are diverse within our society were not in place back then. But it's really necessary to highlight how we achieved so much and how really important that we progress towards this way. And well, as I am a Black person in this new Monday, I feel like quite pressure because again, this is a milestone, and as happened before, and I would like that to carry on forward. And I believe the association, in order to ensure this, is to make sure that there's enough representation for Black people, because they are able to be more confident on taking more of these opportunities and being able to take up the role and just carry on the amazing project that the people before us and right now the people in the current team are doing. So hopefully this is gonna carry on.
Yeah, I love that. Noni.
Yeah, so I like what everyone's saying. I think the makeup of the current executive is like a real sign of all the previous mandates work that has been done to try and make the BPSA more inclusive and diverse, especially in the last couple of years mandates. Change can be difficult, and when teams change, progress can sometimes be stalled or lost between the different mandates, between shifting teams. And that's why I believe it's the role of us as the executive to keep championing diversity and inclusion and putting in place campaigns, events, groups, etc., that can be carried on by incoming executives. yeah, I think the work needs to really be carried on. And also, I think that we've made a much more inclusive environment as part of an executive team. You know, during annual conference, we really focus on making sure that those who are observing Ramadan could actually observe it and without it really impacting their time there. We try to make it as like increase safeguarding and stuff like that. So I'd say that the work that we're doing to make it more inclusive is what has led to us having such a diverse mandate this year, executive this year, and I really, really like that. I'd say that in order for us to keep it going this way, we need to make sure that there's a proper and in-depth handover done to the next executive that solidifies the importance of the work that we're doing and make sure that it's seen as work that has to be done rather than optional additional work to current roles. And so we have plenty of fantastic work planned for the remainder of the mandate and the remainder of this Black History Month campaign. So we hope that it will help the BPSA continue down this path that it's currently taking to be more inclusive and diverse.
Yeah, wow. That I think was one of my favorite answers, because I loved hearing how inspiring all of you guys were. So moving on into something a little more serious now. What has been your challenges, both personally and professionally, as a Black pharmacy student and trainee? What have been like the downs of it? And we've talked about quite a bit about the ups and the inspirations, but like obviously every journey, has its pitfalls. It's not smooth sailing. So what have been like some of the challenges you faced in your journey so far?
I would definitely say one of the main challenges is self-belief. And I definitely know that I've encountered like learning to believe in myself more during my pharmacy journey. So the ability to tell myself that I can and will do certain things has been an approach I've been trying to instill within myself. Through the help of various outspoken activities and events that I've experienced during my pharmacy journey, I can say that self-belief is a barrier that I've nearly crossed over and will not be looking back on. I would also say that figuring out the type of people you should be around and ignoring people that have views that would only deteriorate your educational aspirations is something that I have had to really fine-tune within my life, the older and more experienced I've got. But on a more personal level, I would say that dealing with like differentiating between your personal life and your professional life and not letting your personal events impacting your professional capabilities is one of the main things that I've had to try and basically not live two lives, but try and not let one thing impact another. So for example, obviously my dad recently died, and obviously I can't, like, at one point I was like, you know what, let me just stop this pharmacy thing and like pull out, because it happened at the beginning of the year and it was very like mentally draining. So obviously having to go between different countries, I could have told myself in January, you know what, this is not my year. Maybe I'll come back to pharmacy in a couple of years. But you know what, I told myself, you know what, let me defer my exam, let me do my summer exams. And then obviously I found the BPSA in midway through it, and that aided me to push on through my summer exams. So I feel like differentiating between that and not letting events that are so personal, such as death at the end of the day, impact your journey, and then getting through it. And then when you do finally realize at the end of the tunnel, you know what, you crossed over to the next year after all of that, it gives you more belief that in a year, hopefully, that's not as impactful with such personal events, you'll be able to pull through anything. So
yeah, that requires remarkable resilience, to get through something as difficult and heartbreaking as that. But it's truly a testament to your spirit and how strong you are that you're able to pull through from this and come back stronger and thrive. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing that, Emeka. Debbie?
For me, I agree with Emeka. I think that self-belief, I struggled a lot with imposter syndrome throughout the whole time at uni. Even though once you've done the application, you've got your place, you should feel like, well, they've accepted me, I should be here. It can be very difficult to actually feel like you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, even though you know deep down that's exactly, this is the only place for you. I'm quite grateful for the experience that I had at uni, but it was challenging. I went to a predominantly white university, which most institutions in this country are, and it can be quite isolating, not only being surrounded by people who don't look like you, but not having that many people that share the same lived experience as you. And although there may be a lot of other Black people, there wasn't always that many other Black people that were studying pharmacy. So the course itself comes with additional pressures that I think only other pharmacy students can truly understand. So I think, yeah, the imposter syndrome, even small things like being on placement and being the only Black person on the team, again, carrying on, and then you're trying to deal with that as well as thinking, well, I know I did the lecture on this last week, but I don't remember anything. And then you start thinking, I shouldn't be doing this. Even now within my training year, I'm like, I can't remember something sometimes. Should I really be doing it? And there's a lot of questioning. So yeah, I think like you said, Reshmi, we had to build up a lot of resilience. I think another thing that for me was a big challenge is I'm someone that speaks out. I like to speak out when things aren't right, and I like to stand up for what I believe in, especially when it's happening and affecting people's lives. But doing that, I still carry that fear of being the angry Black woman, especially when you're existing in a predominantly white space. So it used to hold me back from speaking up or doing work that I know I could be doing, calling some things out, especially when you're a student and it's academics, there's the power dynamics that are in place as well. So I think overcoming those was quite difficult, but representation is a major factor as well. I mentioned my previous head of school, but we didn't have that many Black lecturers. So I think it would have been easier to have people that you could go to and without having to explain, knew what you were going through and could help you in a way that was suited to you. All that being said, I had a fantastic time, and our department was able to foster a very welcoming place and a place where we could feel like we belong regardless of our race. But I think imposter syndrome is something that we all really struggle with and will probably continue to.
Yeah, thank you so much, Debbie. Craig, what about you?
Well, for me, that's my main challenge was as a student, was dealing with the motivation from a time within the course of pharmacy. Well, sometimes the workload that became excessive, and on multiple occasions I was struggling to manage my time and ensure to carry out my assessment effectively. And on top of that, what was really daunting is personal issues. They were really having like an effect on my mood, personally, and my mental health. And that just contributed on just worsening of my academic performances. Getting to a point where I was feeling sort of like the last throw of the group, sort of not capable to carry on the course, or maybe not good enough to achieve my dreams as a pharmacist. Therefore, maybe consider many times to drop out, or maybe consider even a different career path. But it was the presence of really important people from my life, and I want to mention like people like Mecca, being able to witness how, despite the issues, despite the adversities, they were still able to push through, and they're still able to achieve things that you say the odds were against you. And for myself, some sort of like courage to try to challenge my self-belief and maybe try harder and be able to do it different this time around. And luckily enough, I was able to, against any odds, honestly, to even make it to the second year. And thinking back makes me realize that the most important action I should have considered is speak out, especially in terms of mental health. There's a lot of stigma around, especially within the Black community, about talking about your own struggles, your issues, and maybe starting joining life therapies. And it's really important, especially for young people nowadays, to understand that in case you're suffering, in case you are struggling with something, it's really necessary that you reach out, because that will really do a big difference. And it did it for me. And I can confidently say that enough that now I'm more than excited to carry on my journey of pharmacy, and there's definitely nothing that can stop me now. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Craig. That's really inspiring to hear. And yeah, I completely agree with you on the not talking, like the stigma around talking about your own struggles. Like definitely can relate, being from South Asian background myself. Noni.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting how we all have kind of similar like issues that we faced or challenges that we faced. Like my main issues were finding a community at Kiel and also speaking out. So with finding a community, obviously my lecturers are great, my course mates are all great, but there's nothing more comforting than having people who understand your culture and understand what you're saying or what you're talking about without the extra explanation, you know. There's a thing like when you meet another, let's say I'm Nigerian, you meet another Nigerian, you don't have to do any sort of explanation. You can already get into the kind of jest, into the banter, because you guys know each other, you know a lot of each other's backgrounds and a lot of the same experiences you would have gone through. And so I guess fostering that kind of community in a place that is quite secluded and predominantly white, and also a course that has very few Black students, was quite difficult. And yeah, so doing that over time has definitely helped me feel more at home at Kiel, trying to find that community. But at first it was a struggle. And I talked about as well, speaking out when things happen or when you are going through anything. You know, we've said it's stigmatized to speak about mental health. It's also kind of stigmatized to talk out about things that are affecting you or your family life to people outside of your family. In a lot of Black cultures, I'm sure in a lot of South Asian cultures as well, it's kind of stigmatized, like you don't speak about what's happening to the family outside of the family. And so having to like go through things at home, or, you know, hear about things that are happening back home and not being able to find any solace or any support from people outside of the home life or from your university student services because you feel like you're not meant to speak out about these things, can be quite isolating and lonely, you know. And so coming to the point where you're like, okay, I know this is how we do things usually in our culture, but it's not healthy to keep everything within you. It's not healthy to not talk about things that are affecting you and, you know, in the end of the day could affect your work life or could affect your social life or even mental health. You know, coming to that point where you can be like, yes, I do need to reach out for help and tell people when I'm struggling was very challenging, and it's still a challenge that I face till today. I find it so awkward whenever anything is going wrong in my personal life to disclose it to anyone. I don't even know how I do it usually. I tend not to. And so that's a constant challenge that I'm going through. But I feel like a lot of us experience the same and feel the same. And it's something that you have to learn to do at some point, because you'll just burn out like if you don't reach out to others and you don't ask for help when you need it. So yeah, those are my main challenges during the course so far.
Yeah, I definitely relate, especially about like finding the own community thing. Because when I find like another Indian person, you know, when you were talking about finding your own community, like the first thing that popped to my mind was like that Spider-Man meme where they're like pointing at each other in like the cartoon thing. So like I definitely relate. So when I see another person, I'm like, you. Like I definitely, like I understand what you feel, and like just that feeling of comfort, and like you don't have to like explain yourself basically when you meet someone that comes from the same ethnic background as you. Yeah, so you know, when you find your community, you just gotta hold on to it tight. Yeah. So okay, so the next question, basically, let me just yeah, okay, so this can possibly lead on into two. So do you think that the pharmacy profession has taken more effort to become more diverse and inclusive towards Black people? Do you think that, you know, Black pharmacists, their achievements are being celebrated? Or is there more, do you think that obviously there is more, but what do you think we can do to like amplify Black representation in the pharmacy profession from both a personal and institutional level?
Yeah, pharmacy, I feel like pharmacy profession has definitely made strides in the last coming years in enhancing their support for the Black community. But I still feel that there's areas for the Black pharmacist community to push forward into. So first and foremost, the educational aspect that it will bring if the community continues to push forward through the years, will be provided in the years below, who will see these changes being made and want to affect more change for their generation. This continuous cycle will only stay possible if, as a community, we continue to move forward, attaining more and more voices in the process that will keep the community going in the right direction. I do feel in this current state that Black pharmacists' achievements are not also being enhanced on a national scale as well, because if you look into the news nowadays, you see that a fellow white man has suddenly done this, but I feel like there's Black people out there and Black pharmacists out there that have done great things, but they're not given a platform to voice their achievements on the same scale, which is not their fault. So I feel like being more aware of other people's achievements and being more aware that there are people, not only in the UK, but across the world, that have done great things and deserve to be highlighted in these big platforms such as the news and other websites as well, is also an important mentality that I feel like we need to learn in this day and age.
Absolutely, absolutely. Debbie?
I agree with everything that Emeka said, to be honest. I think in a way that we are, as a profession, amplifying the work of Black pharmacists more, but we're only at the beginning. And I think that a lot of the work that has been done either by individuals or standalone or non-profit organizations. And it's very labor-intensive work. And a lot of the time it's unpaid, and the responsibility falls on the Black people or the minority communities. So, and this has been something that has been happening for so many years. I think a lot of people are burnt out from this, but are still trying to continue making those changes. I think more has been done to promote leadership opportunities in academia and within the pharmacy sector, like different pharmacy sectors from ethnic minorities. But there are still so many issues that are impacting the community that are only now starting to be addressed. And there's just, it's a big can of worms, and we're only at the top of it. We haven't really reached the root of tackling a lot of these things. Things like we're now learning and trying to learn and practice more culturally competent healthcare, but that still needs to be done more. We still need to decolonize the way in which we think, the way in which we practice, decolonize our curriculums, foster inclusive working and learning environments. I think race is a topic, as Noni said earlier, it can be difficult to approach, and a lot of the time, because people don't want to say the wrong thing or don't know anything, it can be put on the back burner, but that needs to change, and more needs to be done, like Emeka said, to amplify the work and achievements of Black pharmacists internationally and nationally. For me, it's a no-brainer. We're doing amazing things. Why can we not shout from the rooftops? And I don't think that it's the responsibility of that community alone to be doing that. We are one profession, we are one body, we should be doing this.
Yeah, great.
Well, I want to start saying that the pharmacy profession is always slowly transforming inside out. I witnessed many campaigns and advocate for Black aspiring pharmacists, empowering the role and educating the rest of the community on the importance of topics like equity. And really more surprising was observing an increasing number of members from Black and African origin more involved into extracurricular activity, even from their own initiative. However, it's safe to say that there's never enough in terms of action. So yes, I do observe some sort of like a support coming from an association, but it's necessary that the majority of the groups that can actually physically make a change within the sector are on the same board. A method that we made really very great points as it's really necessary that the first place these things is always continuing. And we also need to make sure that despite the fact that things are being achieved in the community, yet there are not enough Black African representing within the sector. I don't see personally as many pharmacists, and personally as a student, that's a bit frustrating. Also, I would like to see someone from my home background thought the role give me confidence and inspiration to pursue their career. So it's really necessary that we address these situations, and it's really necessary that one of the first steps to reach like a better future is to spread more awareness regarding the main issues that are involved into these aspects. And first of all, as a community, it's necessary that we take actions. And no matter whether you're from like a specific ethnic minority or not, or from like a different background, your voice, your contribution will definitely make a difference. And as long as everybody decides to take on the movement, I believe that in the future we will actually be able to change the situation and achieve even more from what we've achieved so far.
Thank you. Great. Noni?
Yeah, you guys have said practically everything I wanted to say, which is great. We're all on the same track of mind. Yeah, we see a lot of pharmacist-led organizations, like Debbie said, non-profit organizations that are trying to make pharmacy more inclusive and are trying to uplift Black voices. However, there are so many issues that are only in the beginning of like being addressed, and the work is being done to address these inequalities, but it's smaller organizations and we need it to be a nationwide thing. Like everyone should be on the same page. Otherwise the work just happens and then it kind of dissipates afterwards. And so, yeah, to make change, we really need to have it reflected across the whole of pharmacy communities in Great Britain. Some major issues that I think need to be addressed like within the next couple of years are the awarding gap, decolonizing the curriculum, more inclusive teaching on cultural competency and health issues that majorly affect the, people from minority ethnic backgrounds. Things like that would be pivotal and vital for us as pharmacy students to be able to come into the workforce and make it more inclusive and diverse from the inside. So yeah, I'd say working towards those and addressing those. And so we are actually, as an organization, the BPSA ourselves, working towards those goals as well. We are working to try and team up with pharmacy schools to tackle the awarding gap. We're working to create an anti-racism toolkit, which will be out later this month. Other resources relating to health inequalities we're trying to put together, and running a conference that amplifies some of the concerns Black pharmacists and students have, as well as teachers' cultural competency. So if we as an organization of students can start working on this, I'm sure that larger organizations can also get on board and really push this work to make it, you know, impacting and nationwide.
Thank you so much, Noni. Right, last question. This is going to be a bit random because I just thought of this off the top of my head and it's not in the list that I gave you guys, because I just, you know, want something a little bit casual before we end this. What is your hope for the future of the Black pharmacy community and or just the Black community in general? And, you know, just, yeah, like just what is your hope? What are like your dreams, and any piece of like inspiring advice or just advice in general that you would just give to like people hoping to enter the profession, people like yourselves, young Black pharmacists, if future pharmacists hoping, what would be like your main thing, or like the one piece of advice you would give them?
So I would say my hope for the future is definitely to see more diversity. That's my main hope. So when I go to these different pharmacy events, whether it be pharmacy show or a conference, I would like to see a more cultural diversity spread between all minority groups across the pharmacy world. So I believe that through the years that can definitely be achieved. And at the end of the day, we as an exec members is our like job to help push that through in the coming years. So that's one of the things I do want to see. Also, when I do like obviously become a pharmacist in the coming years, I want to see a more like spread of like pharmacy people that work within the pharmacy apart from the RP, responsible pharmacists, because when I do go to different pharmacies, I don't really see any Black pharmacy assistants, pharmacy dispensers in sense. And I do feel like they don't feel like that's an angle that they can go down, There's a lot of pharmacy people that I know that are Black. They normally go down the nursing route or the midwifery route, but I don't really see any of them say, maybe not pharmacists, but pharmacy dispenser, technician, and so on. So I do feel like me walking into a pharmacy, and not all of them having to be Black, but seeing a more wider spread of it would be definitely something I would be happy to see. And on the inspirational advice, I would just say, go for it. Like, that's my main, like, 3 words, go for it. Like, if you're sitting down and you're debating, should I do this thing that you know deep down is good, and you know if you do it well, regardless if you fail or not, if there's a chance for success, then push yourself into that lane, because at the end of the day, you'll never regret something that you do, but you always regret something that you don't. So putting yourself in that position, believe in yourself, getting over that fear, trust me, even if you come out unsuccessful, will build you up for the next time, working on the tips that you may not have done so well the first time around, but when you're given the opportunity again, you know you'll smash it. So I'll just say go for it no matter what.
Thank you so much, Amaka. Debbie?
Oh, you're asking the difficult question last. What are my hopes for our community? I think on a personal level, one of my biggest dreams for us as a community is healing. As a collective, we've been through a lot. Like I said earlier, our history is beautiful, but it also has a lot of darkness and suffering, and those generational traumas continue, and we have them. Hopefully we'll break them, we don't pass them to our children, but they're things that will affect everything that we do. So it does affect our professional lives as well. So I think healing is a major thing, and we've already mentioned the stigmas that would exist within our communities, destigmatizing some of those things, destigmatizing mental health, destigmatizing conditions that predominantly affect our communities, things like sickle cell, things like HIV, further educating us. As a practitioner, I think one of my biggest hopes or goals is creating a healthcare system in this country where Black people feel like they can actually access that healthcare, even though healthcare is free. Because of a lot of things that have happened in the past, or where we've come from, a lot of people in our communities don't want to either access healthcare, or they don't trust in healthcare providers. So we need to find out the reasons why and make changes so that everyone is getting access to healthcare. On an international scale, I think having everyone have access to healthcare is a major thing as well. Sometimes it can feel a bit guilty, like if I was born in a different family, or my mum didn't do everything that she did to get us to this country, like what would my life be? Would I have the simple things that we have a right to and we have access to? I don't know, I can't answer that. And I think sometimes I get stuck in thinking, what can I do just here? But I really want to see and be a part of changing that for our entire community. How many millions of Black people don't have access to healthcare? How many millions don't have access to sanitation, all these things? Like, I think it might be a lot to chew, but those are probably like my big goals. Healing is a major one. I'm trying to remember what you asked us. What
would be like the piece of advice you would give, like any young Black people enter the pharmacy profession?
Probably my biggest piece of advice, along with go for it, would be something my uncle always tells me, and he always ends a conversation with, don't forget that you belong. And I think that it can be so profound, in this world, in this fast world that we're living in. Like, we can get so caught up in other things and feel lost and feel lonely and feel like we're not doing the right thing, or that thing isn't for us. I'm a Black person, why would I do that? So I think just remembering that you do belong, whether it's, in whatever space you exist in, you have a right to be there. You have a right to take up space in the room. I said it earlier, but sometimes it's actually okay. We as Black people have things to be angry about, so we should be okay with being the angry Black person in the room. and remembering that your voice is not only important, but it deserves to be heard, and you deserve a seat at the table. And if there's not a seat at that table, go out there and make that seat at the table, because that's what our parents did for us. We're capable of doing it as well.
That was such a beautiful answer. Like, I loved the part that you said about the healing. I think that was just really poignant and just emotional. Thank you so much for that, Debbie. Craig?
Oof. Well, what I want for the future? Well, absolutely. I would like to see a future where obviously everybody's treated, with an equal amount of dignity and respect. And that's absolutely essential to ensure that we have like a fair system. And in order to achieve that, obviously, it'll be necessary to remove barriers that in these moments right now basically causes the major issues that cause inequalities within healthcare, cause discrimination, any sort of big problem related to minorities or diversity as a whole. And well, from there we'll require a general contribution, as I mentioned before, from every member of the society. Obviously, it requires a lot of work, and there's a lot to discuss on in these terms. But obviously, it's something that's required, and it's necessary to take on. And as I was saying before, everybody needs to be on board to this project. Because that's the only way where we're gonna have a future when these sort of happenings, where people do not feel represented, and where people do not feel the dignity to simply access a net health service, where people do not feel like they're treated fairly, do not call anymore. So it's necessary that everybody takes on to their addresses this, first of all, and assess the possible causes, and so we can draw effective solution, and maybe hope for like a better prosperous future maybe. And in terms of advice, well, first I need a lot of advice myself, but if I really want to give a good advice to anyone or anybody struggling now, well, remember that even if you're struggling with something, at some point you're gonna get out of it. And I say that because, well, all of us might have some sort of issues, and it might affect our ability to carry out certain activities or possibility to carry on our role. So it's necessary to realize that it takes time, first of all, to find a solution to some problem, and it's necessary they need to be proactive and sort of like having some sort of initiatives on identify the possible solution to solve the issues. It's hard sometimes. It takes a lot even to realize that you're struggling with something or that you're struggling to solve. But eventually, when that occurs, is the only thing that you have to think on is what's the right step onward. And there are many resources available nowadays for people that have any sort of struggle when it comes to mental family issues, personal issues, and sort of any sort of issues. And it's really important that even association or even institutions ensure that the public is aware of any sort of help available for them to be supported any sort of struggle. So as a person, as just to be myself and just to conclude, just remember it takes time. As I said before, it takes time, but do not worry. As long as you take the first step, you eventually get out of there. So keep up and carry on. You'll be all right. That's it.
Thank you so much, Craig. And lastly, Noni?
Yes, so I had a hard think about this as everyone was speaking. This was a very abrupt question, but I will try and come up with the answer. So I'd say professionally, what I see for the Black pharmacist community, I see a lot more support from their colleagues, support from their managers, support from their workplace to go for those higher positions. I think that there's not enough support but sometimes people don't see how beneficial it is for you to say to someone, oh yeah, you should really go for that role. You know, sometimes you can feel imposter syndrome, as has been spoken about before. And so having people reaffirm that, yes, you are meant to be here, and yes, you can go for higher positions, can be really helpful. It doesn't just have to be Black colleagues, it can be white colleagues or non-Black colleagues just speaking to them and saying, we believe that you would be good for this role. Why don't you just go for this? You know, I'd like to see more Black pharmacists in research. I'd like to see more Black academics. You know, I'd like to see more Black people in spaces where we are not typically taught or told about, you know, we're not typically pushed into. And I think that comes from creating more access, creating more opportunities for Black people to, you know, do work experience or see how these positions run, you know? So yeah, I definitely see that professionally. In the general healthcare field, I want to see a lot of the research that's been done into health issues that majorly affect Black people and other minority ethnic people. I'd like to see more of that implemented into our actual curriculum or into our actual training. You know, we do have research that's been done into sickle cell, that's been done into different skin conditions, that's been done into so many different things that affect people of color. But are we taught about it as much as we should? I would argue maybe not. Do we have enough training when it gets to the workplace about this kind of stuff, cultural competency and other stuff like this? No, we don't. And I think that's what's stopping us from actually putting into practice all the work that's being done behind the scenes. So much work is being done for EDI, for inclusion, diversity, for help to tackle health inequalities. Yet because it's not being put into practice, it's not actually reflecting on populations as much as it could. And it's not being put into practice in a wider scale, you know, rather than just small community projects, like actually nationwide projects that will actually affect those in those communities across the country. So that's what I definitely see for the actual health sector, or health, sector. In the next decade, I'd say we need to really work on implementing that. What I see for the Black community personally, I'd like to see a lot more, so Debbie talks about healing. I'd like to see a lot more comforting from our community as well. Actually, you know, giving each other more grace, supporting Black people when you see they want to go into a certain career field, networking with them, helping them, being what's the quote that people talk about? Standing on the shoulder of giants, something like that. You know, if you're in positions where you know that you can influence and you can support those who want to be in a similar position to you, then, you know, take up the opportunity to mentor and stuff like that. These kind of things are becoming much more popular in our community, but I think they can definitely be pushed even more. Mentorship and supporting others around you, and just being that face that people can say, oh yeah, I was thinking of going into this career field and I saw someone who looked exactly like me, spoke like me, had a similar backstory to me, and she made me feel like I can go into that space. That's a lot of the time a really big driving factor as to why people do go for things that aren't typically done in their communities. So yeah, I definitely see that in the future, and I'd like to see more of that in Black community. My words of advice. So I really liked Debbie's anecdote about what her uncle said to her. What my mum always says to me, which I find so like motivational, I guess, she says to me sometimes like, you know what, I wish I had all the opportunities you have growing up. She was born in Nigeria, raised in Nigeria, got a really good grades in secondary school, really good degree, but she was in Nigeria. Like there's only so much you can do. And so now that I'm in the UK, I have so many opportunities at my fingertips. Sometimes you even take them for granted, how many opportunities you have. But if she hadn't come over here, would I have as many opportunities? Would I be able to be even part of an executive of an organization like the BPSA? Who knows? Probably not. And so my advice to everyone is take every opportunity. And I know it can be hard, especially with imposter syndrome, which is so prevalent, especially when you're in a country where you're a minority, when you're one of the minority people groups. So, but I'd still say take every opportunity and don't let that stop you from, you know, trying to belong somewhere. Everyone was saying in their advice, they were telling people, you know, be proud of who you are and don't let, you know, your background or imposter syndrome keep you back from, you know, applying for things or going for those things that you want to do. And I think that's so important. It's something so prevalent and it affects so many of us. But there's sometimes you just have to be like, you know what? I'll apply for everything. And if I get one response, that's perfect. So, yeah, I just say, don't let imposter syndrome hold you back. And also, one thing I always say to myself is, well, for me, this is my life, right? I am in control of whatever happens to my life. Of course, there are extraneous factors that may, make it harder for me to get places or even stop some progresses. But it's up to me. If I didn't apply for something, how would I have ever known if I would have gotten into it? At least if you apply, you have the opportunity for someone to say no. But if you don't apply, then you just stop the opportunity yourself and you're hindering yourself. And that's the worst place I'd want to be in, a place where I'm hindering myself. So yeah, I'd say take every opportunity, say bye to imposter syndrome. I almost said something I can't say in a webinar. and definitely, and definitely don't be your own self, don't hinder yourself. Take every opportunity, yeah. So that's all for me.
Wow. Before we end this interview, I just want to say a massive, massive thank you to the all four of you for taking the time, because we're doing this on a Sunday evening. So thank you for taking the time to do this, before we head into our very busy schedules of work and uni and whatever. It really means a lot. And honestly, on a personal note, I just want to say, hearing your voices and your opinions and thoughts on all these questions, and you guys answered them so beautifully and professionally, by the way. I've learned so much from each and every one of you, and also truly I'm so honored to work with all of you and to have you guys be my teammates, and also to call you guys some of my friends, because you guys are truly, and also the other members as well. But it's such an honor to be with you guys, working with you guys. So yes, thank you so very much. And yes, this whole interview is see you guys on the next one. Thank you.
Happy Black History Month.
Black History Month.
Happy Black History Month.
Black History Month from the BPSA. Thank you so much, everybody.